Hello, Hikaru. Great result. Could you please take us through the game? What happened against Pranav?
Yeah, so it was a very interesting game. It started out very slow. I played this variation, the Queen's Indian Defense, where I just got the two bishops very early on. I think my opponent was a little bit unsure of what to do, which is part of the reason I played this, because it's a little bit unpleasant long term. And then the game kind of exploded. He was played very provocatively, which I think was actually quite smart, because then it explodes in this position where I play this b4 pawn sacrifice and this whole rook a4, rook b1. And I mean, there were a couple moments where I very nearly blundered in there. The first thing is that when I was calculating this whole b4 sequence, with this d5, I was going to, instead of e5, I was going to play bishop a7, and then I just missed bishop c4, knight a3. I was looking at all these different moves, d4, or bishop c4 and d4, rook c4, whatever it might be, and then I noticed knight a3, fortunately, so I played e5, knight e8. Yeah, and even here, I think bishop c1 was the only way to continue, and to his credit, I think that Pranav found the best moves. He played this d4, and then after knight e4, he played rook c6, which I think was best. I got this position with bishop g5 and then bishop h4, and ultimately, by that point, we were both getting quite low on time, and I think when you get into situations where it's pretty much like a blitz game, whoever's king is a little bit safer, whoever has the easier moves, it tends to be a little bit easier to play. I mean, I think I was a little bit lucky. I had a bit more time because there were a couple important moves that I found. I think f4 was very important. Without f4, I might even be worse. And then bishop f2, also another very important move. And I think I used my time very well at that point, and Pranav at the end ended up blundering with this knight c4 move, hanging bishop takes d4. And after that, I mean, a computer maybe could save it, but I think for humans at least, it's impossible. The black's king is so weak, and my king is very safe. So very tough game, but I ended up winning, so pretty happy.
Pranav is one of India's upcoming strong GMs, and he has some good results. Is there some special preparations that you do for like youngsters?
Well, I mean, I've obviously played Pranav a lot on the internet over, I want to say, over the last 3, 4, 5 years. I mean, it's quite remarkable to see how strong he's become over the board. I think I've played him on stream many times, and I've always said that I feel like he will be 2,600 at least, sooner or later. I mean, it took him a bit longer than I think, of course, COVID and probably not having the ability to play so many open tournaments, but he is finally at that level. Where he goes from here, I think it remains to be seen. But I think if there's one silver lining to today's game that I would say, it's that when he got very low on time, he kept his nerves together. I thought there were many moments in those final 5 moves where he very easily could have blundered and lost the game, and he kept his nerves together, and I think ultimately that is one of the things that's most important. And I also mentioned this as well during the World Cup. Like, one thing that really impressed me about Pragnananta towards the end of that event against Fabiano and Magnus, I mean, of course against me, although it didn't matter that much in our match, is that he was very good at controlling the nerves when he was in trouble, when he got low on time in those rapid games specifically. And so I think that's one of those signs that with the juniors, if they're very good at finding moves and keeping their nerves together when they play the top players in the scrambles, they have great potential. And I think Pranav, I mean, we'll see if he gets higher than 2650 or not, but I would assume that he'll get at least to that point.
It's always great to get compliments from players like you, and so much motivation to these youngsters. Just one last question. Yesterday was a crazy game. Could you please just tell us that what do you think was the most special moment from the game?
Yeah, my game. You're talking about my game or Magnus?
Yes,
my game. Yeah. I mean, I think in my game it was very strange. It's one of those games where when you look at it with the computer afterwards, you begin to question whether you understand anything about chess. There were many moments that both of us simply didn't understand, because after the game, when we analyzed, it was very clear that Parham thought he was much better the whole game. And of course, computer basically shows that's not the case at all. In fact, there's one moment, I think, with bishop c5 instead of a6 where maybe I'm better. So it was a very weird game. I think when you're in those situations, you just try to take it one move at a time. And I mean, ultimately, I think I was able to control my nerves a little bit better than Parham was, because I think he thought he had a big advantage, he thought he was winning, then it was kind of an advantage, and he made a couple of bad moves in a row. So it was a crazy game, but it's always fun when you play games like that. And I think the last couple of games have been really exciting, so we'll see what happens tomorrow.
Thank you so much, Hikaru, for talking to us. All the best for tomorrow's round.
Sure, thanks.